everyone. Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I got the chance to sit down with director Peter Hsieh to talk about his new movie Drive All Night, and I really want to emphasize this one to you guys. Drive All Night was awesome. You should definitely see it. Peter's a great director. The movie has a ton of tone and not attitude, but it is very confident and knows what it is. It's this really cool thing, and it's not like anything you've ever seen. I can't say it's like this movie meets this movie because it's very much its own unique thing. I will say that if you're a fan of Ready Player One, I'd say the book more than the movie, but they're kind of, that pop culture video game world, or something like Tron, like a spiritual version of Tron, not so much with the effects and things like that. It's very much comfortable in that world. Sorry, I'm stammering a little bit. I really want to sell you on this movie without giving away what the movie is because you have to go along for the ride. Didn't mean the pun because it follows a cab driver. It's just very cool. It's got Yutaka Takeuchi, who you've recognized from a ton of things, but very genre specific for this podcast is he was in The Defenders. He was also in Last Samurai, Letters from Iwo Jima. Really cool guy. I actually got to talk to him too. That interview will be coming out tomorrow, so check back. Lexi Hammond, Sarah Dumont. It's a small, intimate cast and a smaller story that takes place over a night, Drive All Night, but it's so much deeper than that. And again, I'm sorry about I'm being vague and stammering. I want you to watch it without me giving too much away. But check out the interview. Peter will do a better job selling it than I do. Fair warning, there are minor spoilers. I kind of give him my theory of what the movie was, and he confirms a bit, elaborates a bit. It doesn't ruin the movie by any means, but if you're already sold on it and you want in cold, I would say to watch the movie first, then watch this interview. The movie's actually playing right now at Cinequest through the 30th of March, and tickets are, I want to say it's something like $4 to get a rental, just like you'd do like a Prime Video rental VOD, where you have 48 hours to watch it, something like that. It is so worth it. Drive All Night at Cinequest. Check it out. Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with Peter Hsieh to talk about his new movie, Drive All Night. How you doing, Peter?
Yeah, really great, Adam. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. This should be fun. I have a lot of thoughts on Drive All Night, a lot of questions. Hopefully
Sure.
you can clear things up for me. But before we get there, I always like to ask creative people, when did you realize you wanted to be a creator? Like you're a writer director. So when was the spark for that?
Um, well, I've always been interested in watching like movies and theater, and I wrote plays, so that's where I started. Kind of maybe like 11 years ago in college, I started writing for theater, getting like a first few of my plays produced while I was at school at UC Irvine, and then kind of then doing kind of like a lot of like emerging artists labs, kind of like local theater around both like LA, San Jose, and then beyond. Um, I think even before I started doing theater, I wanted to write like a feature length movie and eventually, shoot it, whether I direct it or just write it. And then I started writing kind of I think film scripts around maybe like 2012, 13. And then Drive All Night, I think the first draft I finished around 2016.
Okay, cool. So it's been kicking around a little bit.
Hmm. Definitely.
What was the road like from conception to writing? I mean, obviously that's the easy part to kind of do on your own. Well, easy
Right.
relative, but you don't need permission or anything.
Right, right.
How did you take that to make it a reality?
Okay, so I was writing a different script at the time called Super Turbo Overdrive, which I've finished now. But that one's kind of a little higher budget. It's got stuff blowing up, flamethrowers, futuristic cars. Um, and I would like get bad insomnia, I guess, while writing it and working also. So I'd go for drives around the city, kind of by myself, listen to music, just chill out. And I think doing so, I started working on a different script. And, I said, let's make something a little more concise that I can more possibly film on my own without the, studio backing. So I started writing Drive All Night, wrote it. I showed it to a few people early on and then, went through, different revisions. And then I think it was like 2018. I decided to make it myself. When my executive producer Sam Cho, we work on an independent kind of mobile game company, sort of his company, Windy Studios, and he says, I can give you some funding. You find some other people, and we can make it. And that's kind of what kicked it off.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a
Yeah,
really cool funding source too. Kind of makes it a fun little Easter egg for your movie.
yeah, definitely.
So you got the funding through a friend, through a company,
hmm
and you wrote directed yourself. How did you go about putting together the rest of your production team?
Yeah, for sure. I think the first thing I came by was kind of like I had Rob, who's my composer and AD, and then I got Stephanie, who was my production manager, also on board during pre-production. A few other people, Marius Leis, who's my line producer, and then early on, I had an idea of who I wanted for the cast, right? But a lot of it came down to how much funding I was able to raise beyond like the initial chunk, right? So that the casting actually did change like a few times. And I think a key piece or a person I got was William Helmuth, the cinematographer, because he pretty much hired a majority of the rest of the crew almost, right? Because I wanted him to basically, assemble his team, to make it, the film's quite, stylistic. So I wanted him to, be able to work fast, work with as, as little obstacles as possible with the right people. And then I think after I got William, I started locking in the cast. Yeah, getting Yutaka, Lexi, Sarah, Johnny.
Okay, that's awesome. A couple of things there. You had your AD, your assistant director, also did the score for the movie.
Yep, that's right.
Did you find that beneficial having him part of the process the whole time? Because usually the score is like the very tail end, like the last thing you button on.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because we're good friends actually, and he's a super talented guy, and I super underpaid him too, so I probably owe him money afterwards, right? But he's always been into music, and he's a really organized person because he organizes stuff for like his band and whatnot, right? So, and he has his own small recording studio. So um, even early on, I know I wanted to go for kind of dark ambience mixed with like synthwave, and so we were listening to stuff, well, Carpenter Brett, Laserhawks, scores like Cliff Martinez, who did a lot of Nicholas Winding Refn stuff, right? So we would listen to it, and having him on set, it was cool because I think he got to firsthand see kind of like some of the images from the film.
That's awesome. It's really cool that he was involved in the beginning because the movie does have such a unique feel and tone, and also in the visual aspect, which was going to be my next question. Is you said you hired somebody and let them kind of fill out the rest of their team to get the look. Did you
Right.
explain the look you wanted, or did he kind of get the vibe from your script and kind of assembled it?
It was we actually kind of met in the middle. So I had him read the script, and I said, "Tell me what you think about it visually, right? Like what images come up, like how you would maybe light this specific scene, or what's the ideal way to do this scene, right?" And I had some of it written in, like a lot of the blue scenes. I said, saturated blue or like a deep ominous red, right, for the red ones. And so, but beyond that, him and I think kind of came to the conclusion we wanted to kind of, we wanted colorful while dark and gritty. And then after he like explained his vision, and I knew he was the person for the job. I showed him some like reference stuff from, I think it was the film Mandy, Spring Breakers, some of the Only God Forgives, stuff like that. Just kind of, at least lighting wise, the mood, and I guess in some of those films also the pacing.
Yeah, those are all really distinct looking and feeling movies. So I guess it was good, a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really cool that it came together that way. And your inspiration, as far as I guess script and look, because to me it kind of rang of like a kind of an 80s movie, I guess I would say, with just like
Right,
the
right.
sub kind of counterculture that you're doing, but completely modern, almost futuristic. Like I got a lot of Tron vibes in a way.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if I was way off base or
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to do something that was kind of like 80s future, like retro future, right? So it's like if somebody from the 80s was to imagine something kind of futuristic, obviously, budget wise, I couldn't go full on, cyberpunk flying cars,
Mhm.
half robots walking around, but to kind of give kind of a hint of that aesthetic.
That's cool. I'm sorry I keep slowing down between. I'm trying to pose my questions without giving away the movie.
Oh, for sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. People should definitely see it just to get that out of the way because I thought it was really cool and I've been thinking about it a ton since I
Cool.
saw it.
Thank you.
I just have to organize my thoughts in a way that I can get them out and get answers.
Right, definitely.
So after you had your production and you decided on the look, you kind of started to talk about the casting a little bit. I think.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll go through with it. So I think Utaka was like one of the first people I knew or that role Dave I wanted to cast correctly. And Utaka's an actor I've seen in several things. So actually, we're debuting at Cinequest. I actually first saw him in a film called East Side Sushi, which premiered at Cinequest. And that was 2013, and he was this is before he did like Marvel's The Defenders, which was kind of like the bigger thing he's known for. And I
Hmm.
thought he did an excellent job in the film. He had great chemistry. He was versatile. There was it was a drama, but elements of comedy, and that I thought he did really well. So I got in touch with his agent, and then gone spoke with him over the phone, and I think it was after that first phone call that I decided that he was the right person, right? He had a lot of he asked all the right questions about the script, and I think he even made me kind of think deeper about the own work, about Dave's relationship to the rest of the world around him, right? And simultaneously, I was casting for Kara. That one I did like open castings in both Bay Area and LA. I didn't find anybody I thought particularly stood out during casting, but Lexi I had seen in a film also at a film festival maybe like a year before I started casting it, and so I got in touch with her, and then we talked, and yeah, and I decided to have her for the role. And then with Sarah, it's I've been a big fan of her. I really liked Scouts versus Zombie. It was a fun film, and then I saw her in there's one other movie. I can't remember the title of it. It's like they're up in the mountains or something. It's a lot of snow, but she was good in that also. Um, so I got her on board, and so as the main cast. And Johnny, who plays Lenny, I actually got him like a week before shooting because the person originally playing him had all of a sudden had like scheduling conflicts, right? And so he was a local Bay Area actor. I cast him, and he turned out to be really great.
That's awesome how it comes together. I mean, it's just it kind of blows my mind that and not blows my mind that you saw somebody and liked him, and obviously that makes sense, but
Right, right,
that you're in the headspace with your script that you watch a guy doing something completely different and you're like, he's the guy to do this. And
right.
it's not a huge cast, but everyone in the cast is firing on all cylinders throughout the whole movie. So you really nailed it in the casting.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did a really great job above and beyond, especially, since we had, day shoots, night shoots, like the energy level, when I call action, they're just like, right on. So
Hmm.
great.
And your lead there, I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. Your lead throughout, like you said, he has a lot of drama and a lot of comedy that he has to kind of balance, and he never
Right.
seemed like he was overreaching or really going for it to sell it. He just kind of rolling with the punches. It was a nice subtle performance.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think with his role, it's hard because it's almost like his character is like in a dream, right? And so
Hmm.
he's kind of not really proactive, but taken along for the ride, though he is the driver. So there's like a lot of layers and subtleties about the character that I thought he did a really great job of bringing to life.
Yeah, okay. And you mentioned the dream thing. So
Hmm.
if this is going too far into spoiler territory, you
Oh,
could just not
for
answer,
sure.
or I can cut this right out because we're just, we're recording.
Cool.
Was he a fictitious character in a simulation?
So yeah, I can go into this without spoiling too much stuff. So there's actually
Okay.
several layers to it, and one of the ways I wanted to leave it like, very open ended. But I
Hmm.
think one of the important things I'll say is the timelines of when the characters exist in the film don't actually all match up narratively as you kind of see it play out, right? So it's it's almost as if everyone's in everyone else's imagination. Like it's a big simulation almost, right? Like Kara exists in Dave's mind, whereas Dave exists in Kara's mind, and Lenny, you know, happens later and exists within Kara's imagination and Kara in his, sort of, right? So it's kind of like almost like strangers thinking about the possibility of each other.
Hmm.
Um, Kind of wandering through. And within the movie, the first, I would say, 20 minutes, a lot of the opening scene, the first scenes, there's a lot of clues as to, especially in how I introduce a character and how they leave that initial scenes. There's a lot of clues as to how they exist, I guess.
Okay. That makes some sense. I think I was
Mhm.
putting things in too literal a box. And
Yeah,
again,
for
I'm
sure.
really trying to dance around spoilers.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
the the vibe that I kind of got, and I guess you don't have to confirm or deny. I'm just kind of
Mhm.
trying to throw it out there to get a better grasp. I'm going to have to watch the movie again. Clearly,
For
um,
sure.
I kind of got the vibe that Kara, when she starts playing that arcade machine in
Hmm.
your ominous red room, the character in the game is the cab driver. So
Right,
she's
right,
along for this ride, but she is controlling it. And then the guy whose high score was beaten, your kind of hitman character, I guess, who was kind of supposed to
right.
be, was also playing that same game.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually pretty accurate. That's the
Okay,
way.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it was really well done because as I'm watching it, at first I was taking it very literally, and
Right,
you had a lot of I mean, obviously she plays an arcade machine. It says press start. Like there's no
right,
getting
right.
that wrong. And then I was getting a lot of kind of Ready Player One vibes from that.
Oh,
Um,
very cool.
Even in her name being Kara, because the guy who kind of created the whole Oasis is the girl who got away was Kira, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't
yeah.
know if you did that on purpose, but that's where my mind went.
Actually, I did. I changed it a little bit afterwards, right? I really liked Ready Player One. I thought it was a really, really fun movie.
For
So
sure, yeah.
it filled me with nostalgia, but also kind of like
Hmm.
wonder and stuff. I hadn't read the book prior to watching it, and then I plan to read it, someday.
You definitely should because it's just this long way of talking about pop culture trivia but threading
Right.
a story through it. So it's
Oh, very
really
cool.
cool to kind of get lost in it. I actually did the I'll recommend the audiobook version because you could just kind of put it on and just let it go
Oh,
and
very
go and
cool.
go. Yeah. Sorry, way off topic. Um but yeah, I picked up on those vibes in your movie and I feel like I'm talking too much, but I was just trying to get it all straight in my head. It was very cool, and I'm glad
No,
that I got what
definitely.
you were putting down.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, because I my main fear is people will be way too confused, right? Um,
Hmm.
and so so I think it's kind of striking that balance because the movie itself is vague and open-ended, right? But anytime you go for something very, vague, almost stream of consciousness, with different possibilities, you always open it up to maybe is it too vague? Do people need, an ending to grasp on, right? I actually had an alternate kind of ending also, and there were a lot of scenes I took out, despite having like quite a short, shoot, which I think it's like 12 days total, right? It's
Wow.
Yeah, the first cut was like 2 hours long. And the script is only 77 pages, right? So I was pretty surprised when my editor and I, it's like it is 2 hours long. So we cut it down to about like 90, 93, 90-ish.
Yeah. So all the stuff you cut, or a good chunk of the stuff you cut, was really telling the audience exactly.
Right, right. It's almost kind of like made it so that you don't you there's only one way you kind of think about it, right? There was a scene where there were two Lenny scenes where he interacts with other people because in the whole movie he's kind of by himself, right? A few steps behind, right? But
Hmm.
there were two scenes when he interacts with a few of the side characters, and that kind of gives away too much also, right? And then there was one scene where you see after the sun has risen, you see Kara in the daylight, you know, getting a cab ride with Frank, the other cab driver, and I think that scene itself reveals too much about like what could be, right? So I chose to take him out, you know.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, and I think you found that balance because when I finished the movie, I was thinking about it a lot, and then I kind of moved on to other things, and then it kept coming back into my mind, but in
Right.
that really good way you want with a movie, where you're sorting it out and you're data mining it, but it's not just like, what did I just see? Like it was all
Right,
there. I
right.
just had to figure it out. I mean, I don't normally get the opportunity to talk to the writer director when I have those
Oh
questions, so
yeah,
this is pretty
definitely.
awesome. But
Definitely. Yeah, the way I think about it, it's like a, you know, a puzzle, right? The
mhm.
pieces are all there. So you know, you can piece it together, right? Whereas like, you know, there's some movies I've seen where it's the pieces aren't all there. So even after thinking about it, I'm like, there's like two things missing. I can't quite see the final picture. You know, maybe I got to rewatch it or something. And when I do, I'm still confused. So,
Right.
I'm glad you know you got it and it was interesting and confusing in the good way.
For sure, yeah, and really the more it sat with me, and I liked it initially, but the more I liked it as it went, it became smarter and smarter as my brain caught up. So it wasn't the
Very cool.
movie wasn't smart; it was me. So as I caught
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
so very nice job.
Cool, thank you.
And I really I want to go back to the tone of the movie, both the look and the sound, because you
Right.
again you found that the way you described it, the futurist '80s vibe, I think is how you said it.
Right, right. It's like retro future. Like as
Retro
if
future,
somebody
yeah.
yeah, somebody from the 80s was to imagine, you know, 50 years down the line, right?
Yeah, if Ready Player One was written in the mid '80s, this is more
Mhm.
the story you'd have.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I
And
think a lot of it also, I have to give credit to like Will and Rob, you know, Will for you know doing the whole look of the thing, and I think Rob for you know because he did AD on set, you know, so he was getting ideas as we were shooting it, so that's really cool.
did you have any scenes where you completely overhauled the look? Like the actors did a good job, the words were all there, but it just wasn't the tone.
Hmm. Yeah, I think yeah, there were definitely a few. So one of it had to do with locations, right? It's the bar was supposed to be different, but there was the funny thing, the bar shot at called Mini Boss in downtown San Jose. That was actually built like way after I've written it, probably in an open grand open like a few months before I shot there, right? So then you know I ended up shooting it there and there was one of the scenes where it was towards the end, the dream sequence when Dave wakes up in that blue kind of ish hallway. I changed the looks of some of that part, you know. There was one where it was he returns to the theater he was at, sort of, you know, he talks to the Midnight Judy, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that one was actually it was supposed to be different, but I said, you know, I kind of want to bring him back to the theater because that theater scene was kind of a really a turning point down the rabbit hole kind of scene, right? And so I think that one was one where I the look definitely changed.
Okay, that's really interesting, and
Mhm.
it's also a cool tidbit that Mini Boss is a real place.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I didn't realize places like that still existed because when I saw it, I'm like, that was another
Yeah.
nostalgia kick. I'm like, oh man, I miss arcades.
Oh, I know. It's cool. They actually have a lot of you know, like the original machines, like the ones from when they first came out, you know, great condition, you know, everything works and you know, George, one of the owners, you know, was really cool to work with too, you know. He also owned a super good kitchen, which a lot of the diner scenes are shot in, and they're right next door to each other.
Ah,
Which is
smart
cool.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, it's funny. I walked in there for the first time. I saw the LEDs and I said, well, it's gonna save me the trouble of, you know, dressing a set. So I shot there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I thought you had maybe found a place that had some pinball machines and then carted in a few cabinets that you borrowed from
Right,
collectors or
right.
grabbed on eBay or something. Like I didn't realize it was real. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Did it kind of help the vibe of the scene being in a practical functioning location?
Oh, I think it definitely did. First of all, the lighting became a lot easier. We just had to set up, you know, a few ambient lights versus like rig the LEDs up. And I think having all the arcade machines there really kind of added to, you know, like you said, the vibe. And I know a lot of the actors, you know, said that, you know, even being able to be in the actual physical space versus a set kind of helped them really not just visualize it, but kind of get into the scene. So yeah, definitely.
Nice. So I would have to take from seeing the movie that you yourself are a gamer, or at least have a very fond nostalgia for gaming.
Oh, definitely. I still play to this day, although the games are different. Like not as many arcades, but I think this was mid 90s. I was in like second grade. I was living in Cupertino, and there was like an arcade and ice rink, one called Tilt and Ice Chalet or something. And my first vivid memory was when the first Mortal Kombat came out, and there was like a crowd of kids there, and I was like shorter, so I couldn't see anything. But eventually, like I was able to watch it. Of course, there was way a lot of people playing, so I wasn't able to play until like probably like 2 weeks later or something. But it was like super violent. There were fatalities. Like it was really cool, And I would go back, probably like once a week, every weekend to play. And then the next big memory was probably playing N64, like GoldenEye with like my friends. We'd have like sleepovers then, and that was cool.
Hmm.
And then and then I think for the last like maybe like 15 years, I've been playing CS:GO.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, just like over and over. I've gotten like pretty good at certain points, but I'd always have like a break in playing, and then my mechanical aim would kind of go down, and I kind of work it, back up. But
Right.
it's fun. It's fun. It's like it's weird because it's been the same maps for pretty much the whole 15 years, but it's like, it's the way people describe like football or soccer. It's the same field, but it's who you play against, I
Every
guess.
game is different.
Yeah, yeah. So I like
Yeah.
that aspect.
Going back to the Mortal Kombat thing, since it
Mhm.
definitely captured your imagination as a kid, that was a great speech that Kara gets talking about Mortal Kombat, but not talking about Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Did you? I mean, obviously, you were the writer. You crafted that whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, I did. So, the way I imagine it was Kara's also a heavy gamer, but she likes to play, the arcade games, in person and machine, mechanical buttons and everything. And she's like a well of knowledge, just like tidbits, random facts. And so she knows a lot about Mortal Kombat. She's super good at Mortal Kombat, almost to the point where it's like sometimes you'll meet these like like speed runners or like these
Hmm.
championship gamers who've beaten the Pac-Mans or who can play like what's that other one, Asteroid, and it's like beat some like ridiculous high score. And the they have like some like god level mechanics to where it's like inhuman reactions, so that's the way, that's kind of like the mythos behind her, I think.
Yeah, when she was talking about Mortal Kombat, it's almost like she was almost kind of like crapping on the game, where like, oh, to be good at the arcade version is not this and this, and she's going through it, and then she's like, you ever see a perfect run? So it's like
Right.
it's clearly in
Yeah,
her DNA at this point.
definitely. Yeah.
And the sorry again, I'm really bad with names, but the lead
Oh,
who's there with her, absorbing the whole
oh yeah,
thing,
Utaka. Yeah.
Yutaka, yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't seem as into the game, but was just kind of charmed by the whole situation.
Right, right. It's something where I think I recall back to the first time I saw somebody play like a perfect game of Mortal Kombat, because back then you put the quarters in and you play until you die.
Hmm.
And there was one kid, he must have been like college back then or something, and this was pre-internet, so the fact that he memorized all the special moves meant he like printed it out from some fax machine or something, and he played a perfect game, and everybody just watched him like silently, like in a circle, and like it was pretty crazy, like and so that's kind of like the feeling that's invoked, right, where it doesn't have to be necessarily gaming, but when you see something super spectacular and out of this world, right? So Utaka's character Dave is almost, he's like charmed by that. He knows this is not, normal. And he's a cab driver, so he meets a lot of people, but this is,
Hmm.
one that definitely sticks out.
Yeah, I thought that was also a good kind of summation of their relationship developing, like how the two characters interacted with each other.
Right, right.
Yeah. Very cool.
Cool.
Sorry, I keep just giving you my opinion. This is your
No, no
interview,
worries.
but
Yeah, no, it definitely you're spot on though. It's you know, the whole film takes place kind of in one night, right? In
Mhm.
well, one night for the audience, and I guess for Yutaku's character also. But he, from the start of the night to the end of the night, there's definitely a development, and one of it's his relationship with Kara, right? At first he's just driving her around. It's almost like she's a voice in the back of his head, right? Where he's sitting there, she's sitting behind him. He doesn't know where he's going, like like how he doesn't know where he's going. But then over time, he gets closer and closer with her, and you see more shot, like wider shots or two shots of them talking with each other. It becomes more of a conversation, I guess. So yeah.
yeah, that's a good point. The way you shot it, where it kind of opens up gradually.
Right. And you see also kind of sort of at the halfway point of the world. The first part's more like she mentions, I grew up here, right? And so she's introducing him to all these parts of the city, whereas Dave, he's a taxi driver, but I wanted him to seem like he's not from there,
Hmm.
um, and so she's introducing him to all these things he doesn't know. But towards the end, or the midpoint actually, he starts introducing her, maybe not intentionally, but to parts of his world. They run into Frank at the liquor store. They go back to the diner, and Lexi has a scene with Sarah where their characters interact, and so it's like their worlds kind of collide. But yeah, I think the pacing and the development of their relationship, I think, was really important. Both the kind of, and I convey it kind of both in terms of how I frame it, how I shoot it, but also kind of like what's being said and acted out.
Yeah, very nice, very well done. It's a lot to think about, but again,
Hmm.
in the best possible way for anyone watching this interview who hasn't seen the movie.
Right.
You should, because you'll see what we're talking about, and it's just it's so well crafted. I'm very impressed. I mean,
Well, thank
congratulations.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to eat up your whole day, but I do want to touch
Mhm.
on Cinequest because
Yeah,
one, I
definitely.
think it's awesome that you're debuting there, and two, I think it's awesome you're debuting there when you found your lead also at Cinequest.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's great. I mean, obviously, I think, everyone's first choice is something like a Sundance or a Tribeca, something like that. I mean, I got rejected from Sundance, but I think the special thing about Cinequest is it's having lived in San Jose, it's the festival I've probably attended the most times, right? And I shot it in San Jose too. And then I found my lead at Cinequest, and so I think it's really great. And the programming people have been really really cool. The communication's been great. Yeah, it's I couldn't have asked for better, really.
Are you going to be able to attend it in person?
I think they're planning for like an August event where there's actual like theatrical showings. But I think for now it's mostly online, so I'll be attending digitally. Where we've pre-recorded a Q&A that I'll play after my film as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very exciting to get into any festival. I'm sure. I can only imagine.
Hmm.
I just hate to see creators like you, especially with this being your first major feature, and you also
Oh,
wrote it like
definitely.
it's your baby. It'd be great if you had that full festival experience. I hope they do put something together in August for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously with the pandemic, no one really saw it coming, right? And so
Yeah, I mean it's
I
no one's
think,
fault. It's just
yeah,
too
yeah.
bad.
Oh, definitely. It would have been really exciting to do like the premiere in person.
Hmm.
But I think yeah, August will be cool. They'll have an event there, and we're also planning to bring it to other festivals. And I think from what I hear from some of the other festival directors and stuff, I think starting like late summer, fall, there'll be in-person festivals. I know like Newport Beach Film Festival, which I also have attended several of those in the past. I think they're aiming for an in-person in October, as well as like Dances with Film LA, which is also, I believe, September or something, sometime in the fall. So those will be cool. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully eventually doing those.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're gonna have a really exciting year because I really feel like this is one that's going to snowball. Like word of mouth is going to spread like wildfire.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's great because it's when I brought because a lot of the investors are not like from a studio, right? They're people I've talked to, people who, some of them have done films, some of them I just know personally. I think they were able to give me a lot of creative freedom, right? Where
Hmm.
taking a script like this to maybe like a larger studio or any funder, it could potentially scare them off, right? It's not necessarily mainstream, and so I think having full creative control on this is really cool. And I'd love to have that on my next film when that comes out.
Absolutely.
Fingers
Yeah, and
crossed.
yes, yes, definitely. I think your work speaks for itself, and from what I know about the movie industry, is your last project makes or breaks your next project. So I think you're going to be in good
Definitely.
shape.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I think you're going to have a really exciting year, and as much as it may be a shame that you can't do the festivals in person,
Right.
are you planning on a VOD release anytime soon, or is it kind of after the festival circuit?
I think it'll be after the festival circuit. I mean, I'd love to have a VOD release. Maybe like a limited theatrical release would be really awesome as well. I know there are certain theaters starting to open up, and then obviously, uh, April, May, that might be, or Q3 this year. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think right now it's really getting distribution, talking to the right people, not just you know, the biggest distributor perhaps, but the one who I feel will support the film the most and get it in front of the most audience, which is where kind of my, executive producers, Sam and Chris, come in. They have kind of more knowledge about the business aspects. And I know Chris had sold his miniseries Bulge Bracket to Amazon, so it's on Prime right now and stuff.
wow, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I was jumping the gun on the roost because that is a lot to consider.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's it's funny because once I finished shooting the film, I was like, I'm almost done, but then there was like a year of editing, right? Part of it being, I kept recutting the film, but also, I was in quarantine, so I was like, okay, well, it might be beneficial to wait a little bit, so
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
it all worked out, I think. So
I think so. Yeah. Did you find one more question? Sorry, and then I'll.
no, no problem, no
uh,
problem.
did you find as a creative person, as you got into it, you're like, oh man, I did not realize how much like business side of this there was.
Oh, definitely for sure. Because I think the immediately in pre-production, because we filmed with SAG actors, immediately I was hit with more paperwork than I expected. So it was Stephanie, Rob, Maurice, and I reading through packets. Like maybe, and then the contracts came in, agent negotiations, all that stuff. So I think it was, and then kind of once it got to the distribution side, like I think it was like maybe like half a year ago when I really started thinking about it, talking to Chris. It does definitely seem a lot of work. It's not as clear cut as, you know, here's a thing, I'm going to sell it to you, I get a check. There's all sorts of different percentages, back ends, stuff like that. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. The nitty gritty stuff.
for sure.
It's interesting. It's a part of the world that like movie fans like myself don't know so much about.
Yeah, I had like no idea either because like you, I'm pretty much just a fan, right? And then having to, I don't want to say the business part was forced upon me, but it was kind of something I had to be cognizant and involved in, you know. Uh,
Yeah, it's unavoidable with what you're doing now.
yeah, yeah, and I figure it'll be good to know for the future. So I'll learn on this one next time, do a better job and so forth.
That's awesome. Okay, well, everybody should be on the lookout for
Mhm.
Drive All Night. I believe you could buy tickets to the Cinequest virtual, so you might be able to
Yeah,
see it. I have on
yeah,
the ticker on the bottom there, March 20th to 30th.
yeah, definitely. It's on the website. It's not on the Cinequest website. It's on creatix.org/cinejoy, and I think tickets are $4 each, and then you can also purchase like some sort of like a festival pass, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, $4 it's nothing. You can't rent on Amazon for that, really.
Definitely, yeah.
Want to tell everybody where they can find more on the movie, more on you, like your socials, anything you want to plug?
Oh yeah. So my film is driveallnightfilm.com. Very easy to remember. There's no www for that. We also have a mobile game you can download and play right now on iOS. Android's coming soon, I believe next week, which lets you explore stuff I didn't put in the film, but exists, somewhere, right? And so I think it's a cool little mobile game. It's free to play also. Just search for it on the iOS and. My socials, I'm on Instagram. I think that's where I am mostly. And Drive All Night Film is also on Instagram. I'm at peterh.exe, and it's at Drive All Night Film. So yeah, check it out. Follow me. Say hi.
That's awesome. I have to. Sorry, I know that was the end, but I have to ask about the mobile game.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Did that come about because your first investor is a buddy who does a mobile gaming company?
Yeah, it is. So Sam and I, after thinking about it, he said, let's make a mobile game for it. It'll be a cool way to kind of not only set the film apart, but give people kind of a cool transmedia bonus experience, get them hyped for the film. And so him and another producer of mine, Jonathan Q, who also works with us there, um, we started developing the game. We worked with an artist named Frost, who we've worked with before also, and it's cool. It's kind of a third person slasher. We have 3 levels, and there's a donate button where you should donate to the film to cover post production festival costs, and that opens a fourth level. Just any donation amount, $1 to whatever. But yeah, it was fun working on it because I think it's something where I think Jonathan and Sam are more familiar with, right? And it was it was fun because I get to write the scenes I couldn't write, and put it into the mobile game.
And it could not fit better with the kind of the not maybe not the theme, but the elements of your movie.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's so cool. Well,
Cool,
thanks again for
awesome.
coming on. Congratulations again on the movie. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Yeah, I was happy to be on. This is the first interview I did for the film, so
Oh, excellent, excellent. You'll
awesome.
you'll have many more, I'm sure. Like I said, this is going to spread like wildfire once people get to start seeing it.
Cool, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again. Take care.
Cool. See you later.
I want to thank Peter Hsieh once again for coming on the show to talk to me about his awesome movie. I can't wait to see what Peter does next. Again, I can't say enough good things about this movie. It's one of my top 5 that I've seen recently. I don't even want to say this year because we're only in March, but even going into last year, I just loved it. It's playing at Cinequest through March 30th. You can get it as a digital rental online to experience it, and I recommend you do because it's going to be on the festival circuit for a while. I think word of mouth is going to get it to even more festivals than it's already planned for. So it might be a little while before you get to see it. So Cinequest going on for the next week or so. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to our channel. Really helps us grow our audience. We have more cool interviews like this, more new movie coverage coming your way. You're not going to want to miss out. Also, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week wherever you get your podcasts. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows for it. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All of our accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, a really good friend and I released a comic in January this year. We got an issue coming out every month for the whole first chapter. It's available at socialstudiescomic.com. The comic is called Social Studies. It's kind of a humorous look at the high school experience through the skewed prism of the 90s cartoons that we grew up on and loved. We're really proud of what we're doing. We're proud of the storytelling, the characters, and my buddy Mike's artwork is amazing. Check it out. Thank you.